Um, I'm Caitlin Donnelly Power, and I am 17, and I attend Oak Park and River Forest High School.
What is your general perspective on life? Like, what do you think it kind of like, if you could give a definition of it, what would it be?
A definition of life. Um, do you want something abstract or?
I mean, this is like what you see it as, so.
I guess it's, I guess it's like an opportunity, almost. I mean, I don't believe, I'm like an atheist, I don't believe that there's anything after life, so I guess that you get like one shot at it, and whatever you do with it is it.
Like, what is your happiest memory? If you could think of like a time in your life where you were just completely, you didn't have a care in the world, you just like this, a day with your family or something, when you were just so happy.
Um, yeah, yeah. I remember once when I was like when I was younger. I used to live in Mexico, and I used to horseback ride a lot. I loved it, and um, I I went on this trail ride once. We used to after I was done with my lesson and whatever, we would just go out. And the place that I lived was pretty rural, so there were just a bunch of trails, and it was pretty. It was in the mountains, so it was really dry where we lived. And I remember this one day. It was in the spring, and we had just finished our lesson, and we rode out to this like one area, and I'd never been there before because it was like kind of a long ride, and it was a little bit difficult. And it was so green. Like we get there, and it must have been near some lake or river or pond. But everything around it was like it was like in a movie, and it's like the desert, and then there's suddenly just like this oasis, because that's what it was like. And there were trees and just like flowers everywhere, and I was so happy.
So what role does happiness play in your life?
I I don't I hope a big one. I don't know. I mean, I like being happy.
What makes you happy?
I don't know. I feel like you rely on others for happiness a lot. Not necessarily all the time, but I think that seeing someone else happy makes you happy. And I guess that's like a never-ending circle, because like what made them happy? So who was the first happy person? But no, that's too much for me to think about. Well, like when I got to go to Kenya, it was probably that like stands out in my mind. It probably wasn't my happiest moment, but it stands out. Just because that was my first big trip, I guess, and well, actually it wasn't the first, but it was a big deal, and it felt like the first time I was gonna do something really different, and
Did it change your life in any way?
that moment,
Or that trip that trip?
yeah, absolutely.
How so?
That was the trip that made me realize how big the world is, I guess. And that trip is what made me want to go into anthropology, I think. Because just seeing people and seeing how different they were from me, I was like dying to know if there were anything that was similar between us, because it was superficially, it seemed like nothing was the same. But then you'd like talk to the kids or to the adults even. Well, we couldn't really talk; we spoke totally different languages. But the kids wanted to like touch your hair and like show you their pets, and yeah, they were just like normal kids, even though their circumstances were so different.
Jefferson. I'm 53 years old today.
The word life, what do you think of?
I think of life as something that is in motion, that has breath, that has the potential for growth, something that contributes to the overall goodness of that which surrounds us.
In your own words, give a definition of happiness.
Happiness is a sense of well-being, an inner sense of hope and purpose. Happiness is a joy that we feel when we encounter something we love. Makes us feel good about ourselves and others.
What is a time in your life when you were utterly happy? It can be a memory, one of the happiest memories you have.
I remember one time I was supremely happy when we had just beaten a basketball team, the Lewiston Cardinals. And I was a junior in high school, our varsity team. This is our third game, and they were heavily favored, and we beat them. And I remember the bus ride back to Chatfield, our town I lived in. It was just so much fun being with the guys. And I remember on that bus saying, this is such a great moment. And I was a little sad that I knew that this moment would pass, which it did. But at that moment, it was so great to be with everybody, and we had just won.
What do you think the relationship between life and happiness is? Do you think they go hand in hand?
Life and happiness.
Life and happiness, yeah.
Well, I think life is life is life is objective, whereas I feel that happiness is subjective. So, as a part of our lives, we can feel happiness, but life continues whether we feel happy, sad, whatever our emotions are.
It changed your life in any form of way? Or gave you a different outlook on life?
Well, I think, my last drink, there was a moment when a friend of mine who's a pastor and moved before us came to the house and had the intervention, and that changed my life. It changed all of our lives for the better.
My name is Alice Grunwick. I'm 84. I will be 85 in July.
If I were to say the word life, what is the first word that comes to your mind?
Living.
Living. Have you done a lot of that in your lifetime?
I have. I've had a good life. I've been blessed in so many ways.
What is one of your happiest memories?
I think on my first trip to Norway.
Oh, why did you go to Norway?
I went to meet my grandparents and to visit with all of my aunts and uncles.
How does happiness play a role in your life, or how has it played a role?
How has it?
Yeah.
Through my family and my friends and my acquaintances at my different jobs.
Do you
and I've maintained their friendship in many places. I think losing my parents and my husband. Death is always difficult.
Yeah.
Although we were very, very blessed